At this time, we have opportunity for the public to address the board.
Hi, my name is Melissa L., and I'm at 27 Barberry Street in Hooksett. And for the record, I do not represent the group. I am here speaking only on my own behalf as a parent. I am here tonight with a few words to go into greater detail as to why it is not feasible for Hooksett to negotiate high school contracts with multiple towns. 1, enrollment. If Hooksett negotiates a contract with, say, Londonderry for 100 students, and in a given year, 150 students apply, who's going to decide which 50 students get to go to their first choice school? If it's the receiving town, what will be the criteria? Grades, sports, or attendance? If Hooksett chooses how it will be done so that it is not biased in any way, will names be drawn from a hat? Then there is the issue of special needs children. Let's face it, children with special needs will have a big red X next to their name because they are more costly to educate and transport. Second is transportation. If Hooksett continues with Pinkerton, if Hooksett contracts with Pinkerton and Bow, what happens when there is inclement weather and Bow has a 90-minute delay and Pinkerton does not? Is the transportation company going to run all routes at the normal time and then again 90 minutes later? Having buses travel the same route several times per day is not cost effective. Are all students going to be picked up at the normal time and then the Bow students will be in limbo at a locus or a school that isn't going to open for an hour and a half? The same can be said for early release days. If Pinkerton has an early release due to conferences, are the Pinkerton children going to be picked up at noon and then deposited at the locus, only to wait 3 hours until the next bus comes? Hooksett already has a place for buses that is free. Hooksett does not have room for traffic, and it will increase Hooksett's already congested town. Families already have a set routine in their working schedules for their children. It is a lot to ask for extra time in their day to be dropped off and or picked up at a congested locus. Tuition rates. All districts do not charge the same rate. A district is not going to charge sending towns less than what the residents of a town pay. As a resident of a receiving town, I would be outraged if a sending town paid less. Residents would vote this down. We are at the behest of their voters, who will probably bust a gut laughing when we ask them to reserve X number of spaces and then only use some small percentage of that because contractually it obligates them to accommodate up to that many students. Picture if they have a surge in enrollment and in their town we reserve 100 seats but only use 15. They may need to expand to accommodate the enrollment but still have 85 empty Hooksett seats. I wouldn't sign Hooksett up for that kind of contractual liability. How would I expect another town to do so? 4, safety. Having a large number of teenage high school students in a parking lot for a long period of time unsupervised is only inviting trouble. There could be fighting, drug abuse, and school skipping. This would also prove to be a haven for pedophiles, sex offenders, and drug dealers. Who would be there to supervise our children? Would the town hire a chaperone or pay a police detail to ensure our children's safety? This would only increase the cost to the town of Hooksett. I would not leave my child there unattended without supervision. Cost. Having a contract with a single school would keep busing costs at a minimum. Towns are not required to provide busing. It would be the responsibility of Hooksett to provide transportation. 6 is teacher unions. You will not get surrounding schools to start and end the day at the same time. Teachers and paraeducators are contracted through unions on set times. This is not negotiable. There are schools set in their schedules who have before and after school clubs. Again, for the record, I do not represent a group. I'm here only to speak on behalf of myself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. A little more than a year ago, the Hooksett School Board voted to ask... Oh, Tom Cody, 246 Westboro Road.
Thank you, sorry.
Sorry. A little more than a year ago, the Hooksett School Board voted to add the word hardship to their high school policy. This act set in motion a number of events that led to what I will call the perfect storm. No longer would Hooksett allow students to go out of district without good cause. This action would keep all of our tax dollars in the school district where our children are contracted to attend high school, Manchester. The people who were against this change in policy fought back. At the next election, 2 new school board members were elected who were against the change in policy. In the ensuing months, it was very clear who the old board was and who the new members were. To the best of my knowledge, 2 of the Hooksett School Board members have children going to out-of-district high schools, and no one on the board has a child going to a high school in Manchester. Here's where our perfect storm occurs. The 2012-2013 school year starts. Anybody who watched the Manchester school budget process knew there could be trouble. It's going to be even worse next year, and one-time money echo in our thoughts. Not beyond our wildest dreams did we expect what occurred at the start of the school year. Class sizes are out of control, and rumors of everything imaginable, true and untrue, abound. A September 4th Bring Your Own Device forum turns into a high school forum. At the September 18th board meeting, a breach of contract letter is voted to be sent to Manchester. Old differences are left behind and the board speaks with one voice. At the October 2nd meeting, we find out the breach letter has been bubbled by Chairman Argo. The letter has been sent without approval of the board, full of some fact, but also of much fiction regarding the high school situation. Also, high school policy is revised back to a policy that allows students to attend out-of-district schools upon the recommendation of the superintendent and approval of the school board. The vote is 4-1. The breach letter seems to linger in the shadows but never gets sent. A high school forum is scheduled for October 16th, and at this meeting we discover a local minority has formed backing a move to Pinkerton. And a scheduled board meeting is set up on the morning of October 26th where a vote to negotiate out of the high school contract is approved. Chairman Argo is absent. Finally, on November 15th, the Hooksett and Manchester boards meet, but not much happens. At the December 4th meeting, the board votes again to send a letter of breach. Again, Chairman Argo is absent. Throughout this whole process, many questions and concerns have been brought forth by the public. Dave Levesque has brought up his daughter's situation many times. The Denbos continually bring up the situation with earth science and biology. At a November meeting, it is brought up again, and Chairman Argo apologizes for not having gotten any answers. Another meeting goes by, and still no answers. At this meeting, Mrs. Denbo has been in contact with Central and gathered some information. My wife emailed a science teacher at West and got an opinion from him within a couple of hours. Where am I going with all this? Where have the Hooksett School Board been for the students currently attending high school in Manchester? The superintendent of Hooksett parades around a picture of a tattered book on his iPad, but when Mayor Gatsis asks whose book and what class, he has no idea. Why has the board and superintendent not been identifying specific problems and providing solutions? Mrs. Kokoris asked the mayor where the money from Hooksett goes. She heard it goes into the general fund. The mayor told her every dollar goes to the school district and invited her and anyone else to come see him and he would show them where every dollar goes. Has Mrs. Kokoris taken the mayor up on his invitation, or is she just taking his word for it? I hear that we want a voting seat on the Manchester Board of School Committee. In the contract, it states that sending towns are able to have a member attend committee meetings and full board meetings. Although this is not a voting seat on the board, it allows us to have a choice in the discussion of high school issues in Manchester. In the years that I have watched Manchester board meetings outside of some high school committee meetings, I have not seen a representative from Hooksett in the discussion. I applaud the Hooksett School Board for holding Manchester accountable to the contract. Now is the time to find a way to work with Manchester and find solutions. I do believe we have a contract with Manchester, and every dollar that goes to another district weakens our children's opportunity for education, especially in these tough economic times. We have become part of the problem and not part of the solution. I believe our future lies with Manchester, but if Hooksett persists with this letter of breach to the end, the door to Manchester may be closed forever. The wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, and round and round, and Merry Christmas to all, and round, and thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
Dave Levesque, 29 Mole Road. I have 4 separate points that I'd like to bring up. Is it the board's policy or procedure not to respond or reply acknowledgement of an email? Because on November 29th, a Thursday, I had sent the 5 of you an email. Not one of you just said, I got it. And I didn't know if that's protocol. I got your email address off the school webpage, the school board website. So that's concern 1. Concern 2, the breach letter that was sent, I believe, Friday, has that been made public? Question 3, Mr. Pearl released the teacher responses for the CCSS questionnaire that all the staff got. I am not a proponent of getting my information from that site, although that's the only place I can actually get something. So if those questions are being asked, where does the public go to get that information? I don't think it's in the board's best interest or the public's best interest to go to somebody's blog site to get that information. The other part of that is, if the teacher responses, as I looked over all of them, it appears that we're using, or that data will come out at some point, but not all the same questions were asked at each of the schools. So I would be worried that we're comparing apples to oranges when we're looking at that data cross-sectionally against schools. So there's really no, I think the teachers, what they said is pretty clear, and my email addressed a lot of the same thing teachers said on the 29th. And then my next, or my last point is Friday's meeting with Manchester. What is the intentions of the board? I understand it's their meeting. What are we gonna do sitting there? Because I wanna be in attendance. Am I gonna speak? Will we have the opportunity to speak? Will we hear what you guys are discussing? Because I really don't wanna go there and complain anymore. It's bad enough my girls had 3 lunch periods. Next semester they have 4. Okay, so time to get out.
Mr. Argo, can I respond to Mr. Levesque?
Yep.
Dave, I'd like to take a minute just to respond. I apologize for not responding to your email. Frankly, I read it and digested it, but I should have acknowledged that I got it, but didn't really think that it needed an answer, but should have done that. I did make the letter public. The letter is a public document now because it is discoverable through the right to know. And I did make public the answers from the teachers. I would offer that we did approve at the last meeting a contract with Constant Contact. So we are in the works of setting up an email list. And I would think that we would be sending any subscribers to that list such information in the future. I would hope that would be one venue that's what I intended it for. So I'm hoping that it could be done. As far as what we're going to discuss with Manchester, I'm not really comfortable going over that. I would say we could one of the requirements of us having a meeting with them was that the public could speak. So we would not go if the public couldn't speak. So that's been guaranteed to us. We've seen the agenda and there is public input on there. As far as what we're going to say or ask for, I think we'll reserve that until we get to the meeting. Thank you.
Jen Legier, 65 Lindsay Road. I speak to the board tonight as a community member and a parent. I am not associated with any named group. I understand that before Hooksett goes anywhere, we need to end our current contract with Manchester. We have been told by this board that Hooksett is doing just this via 2 avenues. First, continue negotiations for early exit, and most recently, breach voted on 12-4. I support and encourage the board to continue these courses of action with due diligence. I see this as a step-by-step process. First, we have to end our contract with Manchester. Not a personal choice, a decision made by this school board, of whom I personally do support, to be clear. Second, when and if we end our current contract with Manchester, our high school students will need a school of record. Call it what you want, contracted choice, base school, verbiage does not matter, but we do need a school that can educate our entire high school community. This is state mandated. Step 2, enter into a contractual partnership with Pinkerton Academy. Our current population of 8th through 5th graders is 665. Therefore, Hooksett will need to provide a high school education for that number of students at a minimum. Currently, there are 2 school districts that can handle 100% of our students in a 30-mile radius via car travel, one being Manchester. With the current conditions of Manchester schools, this board has taken action via early exit negotiations and filing breach. I feel it's safe to state Manchester isn't an option at the present time. Second, Pinkerton Academy and Derry. 2 viable districts through data-derived conclusions, that's it. I do support our school board and Dr. Littlefield to continue to negotiate with Manchester to exit our current contract with due diligence. I also support further discussion with Pinkerton Academy. Let them know where we stand to date with Manchester, and that when the contract issue is resolved, we are very interested in a contractual partnership. Please let me be clear, Pinkerton Academy is not my personal choice. It is data-derived conclusion. I know that the board will see my personal choice for themselves later on this evening. I also wanted to share with the board and Dr. Littlefield that I do not in any way support school board members calling out school board members in a public setting. I appreciate and have total awareness that this can be a very frustrating situation at times. I believe wholeheartedly that this is the time that we stand as one. Thank you. I will be giving you copies of this. There are 54 names and addresses that have seen this and support. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mark Vigo, good evening. I asked a question, I guess, of the chairman. I don't see anybody taking notes tonight for the record, so I'm wondering if the note taker is, well, we're going to be using the video perhaps of the notes for this meeting. I did suggest to the people who provided public input individually here that they should perhaps pass in their notes for the official record. Don't know how this record is being held tonight, but my guess is through the videos. Secondly, I just want to note to the school board that the budget committee is currently reviewing and deliberating over what was the school board budget, school district budget is now the budget committee budget. At the last meeting on the first review of the budget committee budget of the school district, the school board member was not in attendance. There's only a few meetings out of the 19 meetings that this budget committee has. There's only a handful of meetings that deal with the school budget. And it would be nice to have a school board member there for that. Should the representative not be able to attend, there is an alternate that should be notified, which didn't happen last week. And we have another meeting this week. That should be the final deliberation review meeting. And after that, there will be a public hearing in January. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else?
Mark Messina from Barbary Street. We talked about school choice, we've been talking about it a lot. And I just wanted to put some numbers in front of the board for consideration. Currently, we have 6 buses that serve the high schools. It's Manchester, Central, and West. If we were to go to a hub and spoke system, you can double that based on the time differences, and then add 7 buses from those 2 hubs to their schools. We pay about $235K for buses now. We would triple that number, and that's assuming that we have no interference with our current buses that serve Cawley, Underhill, and Memorial. That would add additional cost if we need to cover that. So I just wanted to add that data.
Anyone else?
Chair, may I speak to the breach letter?
You want to do it during public, or do you want
Well, I didn't think we had it. Well, I just wanted, I thought maybe it would answer a question here that maybe Penn
if you'd like to address?
Yeah, I would just like to announce that the breach letter has been sent to Manchester, and a termination date of June 30th, 2014 was listed on the breach letter. They will still have 180 days to remedy from the time they get the letter, but should they be found in breach, the letter would continue as one more year in Manchester. And this was done in order to allow us to form a contract or contracts with high schools in a proper way. And I know there was a lot of anticipation that we may be able to end this contract for June of 2013, but that's not what the breach letter asked for, so I just want to be careful, because sometimes in reading a letter like that, you may just not see that last date on there, and there's no reason to, we're not trying to throw that in. I'm also going to be proposing that in February we have a workshop. I'd like to have a workshop forum with all the parents and start discussing exactly what all of you have been talking about as far as multiple school versus single school. I think the school board has now made its decision. We have sent the letter, and now it's time for us to move on to the second issue, which is which school or schools that we want to deal with. So as soon as we have some time to gather our information, which I would hope would happen in January, I'm hoping that we can all get together in February and maybe make some informed decisions. Thank you.
Dave Levesque, 29 Moore Road. Whose decision was it to extend the date to the 2014? Because I think on public record there was a roll call vote and a date established in a meeting, at a school board meeting, that we heard the vote of that decision. And I guess my question is, if that's public input, who made the decision to do that, and why wasn't it done in a public forum?
And I'll speak to that as I was at that. I would say this, Dave, we conducted a non-meeting with our attorney to come up with that date, based on the fact of how long it would take to predictably form contracts, warrant, budgeting, to be able to fund a contract with another school. I don't think that we have ever voted to send a breach letter that ended, well, we have never sent a breach letter that ended that contract this year.
October, Mr. Cody brought recognition to that breach letter that was discussed tonight. October. It was everybody's intention, and you heard from the public, from public input, that we wanted out, that the consensus was 2013. I don't think, if your attorney tells you one thing, you need to bring that back here and you need to have a public vote. I would like to know who's on record as voting which way to agree to extend to 2014. Because you heard from the members of this community for the past 4 or 5 months with testimony, with a lot at stake, and I don't think it's in the best interest of our children that you make agreements. If that's the attorney's judgment, you need to come back with that motion in front of the members of the public. And we want to know who's voting which way. And if nobody else knows, I want to know.
I can answer that this way, Mr. Levesque. Mr. Argo wasn't there. It wasn't a meeting and we didn't vote. The vote had taken place here on December 14th to send a letter of breach. I went into that meeting fully expecting to put a date of June 30th, 2013 on the letter. After nearly 2.5 hours of discussion among the board and the attorney, we came to a consensus to put the date of 2014 on the letter. The letter had been voted at the December 14th meeting to file a breach of the contract. The detail had not been put in of what that date was.